Okay. So the date is October 2nd, 2017. I am Joel Riley Sanner. I am going to be asking you some questions. I'm going to start with, what is your full name?
Jeffrey Thomas Sanner,
Where are you originally from?
Royal Oak, Michigan.
How old were you when you were on? How old were you on September 11th, 2001?
I was 29 or 30, right in that age.
Okay.
Age range.
So, before 9/11, were you scared of being attacked by terrorists? And if so, why?
Well, as a member of I was in the active duty Air Force. As a member of the military, I probably had an unusual sense of fears because I knew I was a target because I was in the military. I'd been deployed before, so I knew that anytime you go abroad, you're at risk, especially if a blonde-haired American guy. I stand out a little bit in a lot of places. So
yeah.
So I kind of knew I was a target, but as a citizen, no, I wouldn't have thought that I was at any risk at home, being attacked. So
okay. So on the day of the event, how did you find out about the attacks, and what were you doing at the time?
I was in a meeting with getting my education records inspected, and someone came down in the middle of the meeting, interrupted, and there was just two of us, and told us that a plane had hit the World Trade Center, and so we thought it was an accident. I thought, well, that's weird, And then, I don't know, however long it was after, they came down again and said, there's another plane that hit the other tower, and we know it's not an accident. So we realized at that point we were under attack. We immediately ceased the meeting, went upstairs, and started to kind of kick into gear, and then we heard that the Pentagon had been hit. So for us at the base, it was like we locked the base down. We were realizing that we were under attack. We didn't know how many other planes were coming. It was just a lot of confusion and chaos. Even in the military, we didn't know what kind of caught us off guard.
Yeah. So, were you personally connected to anyone in the towers, the Pentagon, or planes?
Not personally connected, just with being a member of the Air Force. I mean, the Pentagon is, our headquarters, so we felt like it was personal, but I didn't have any personal connection to anybody.
Okay. What do you remember about the nation and its leaders coming together in the days that followed September 11th?
Well, I remember George Bush staying at the World Trade Center site, saying something like, we've heard you loud and clear, but in a little while you're going to hear from all of us. And it was just like, kind of a rally cry. And then the senators got together and, all saying, God bless America or something like that. And so I did see a lot of unity, across party lines, obviously. So
something we need today. What did you think of the government's reaction to the attacks in the days and months after the attack? Would you agree with
Well,
that?
I think it's hard to say. In retrospect, we were all so emotional and we wanted this sense of revenge, I guess, which doesn't sound great, but that's the reality, So we all felt like we wanted to kind of respond, In retrospect, was it right to continue to go into Iraq or these other things? I don't know, but I think going into Afghanistan was the right thing, for sure.
Speaking of Afghanistan, how did you feel about the decision to invade Afghanistan?
Well, it's tough because it was a breeding ground for terrorism, and the government was pro-terrorist, so, again, hindsight's always 20/20. You have a different perspective when you look back, but at the time we felt like we knew that Osama bin Laden was, kind of in charge of it, so we knew that he was there and that they were operating, and so it seemed like the right thing to do at the time.
Kind of like priority number one, even though it really wasn't.
Well, I think we just all wanted to respond, it wasn't a measured response, but, it felt like the right thing to do. Yeah.
Okay. And then, how did you feel about the decision to invade Iraq?
I don't know. Again, we hindsight's always 20/20, right?
Yeah.
So now you could say, well, it was a mistake, but we all thought they had weapons of mass destruction. Everybody did, including Colin Powell, who later said that it was a mistake, and Hillary Clinton believed that there was WMD there. So in retrospect, maybe it was a mistake, but at the time we thought they were a credible threat.
Yeah. Okay. So, what do you believe is our nation's greatest security threat right now, and why?
Well, it's definitely still terrorist. I think that there's so many different ways that we could be attacked. EMP, biological warfare. I mean, I have access to information being in the military that the average citizen wouldn't see. So that's the problem, is people don't always understand. They don't have all the information to know why they're making these decisions. But if you knew it all, you would walk around probably scared to death all the time.
Yeah.
So there's some wisdom in not disclosing all the threats, but there's a significant threat still, and
yeah.
Anyway.
Do you think that terrorism can be defeated? And if so, why or why not?
It's an ideology. So frankly, you cut one head off, they just grow another one. So when you're warring against an ideology, it's love, to me as a Christian, is the only thing that can really win people over is love. But sometimes people don't listen to that anyway. So sometimes force.
Even if you do stop one person, you could someone else is always just going to come along
and the breeding grounds of this stuff is poverty and oppression and other things. So really, you have to improve these people's quality of life so they can see that there's a better way. But they've grown up in poverty, so it's really a systemic problem that goes deeper than just religion. But
how do you think 9/11 has changed you personally?
Well, I think it was a wake-up call that, the fragility of life and just how quickly things can change. I mean, everybody's life changed. Even your life changed that day. You weren't even born yet.
Yeah.
But you were born into during a time of conflict. So it really changed the course of our nation's history. So it was.
Yeah. How has 9/11 changed our nation or the world, really?
Well, I think, again, there's been more terrorism. Again, the problem is that you can't, the idea of terrorism is to instill fear, and if it works and you change your life because of it, then they've won. Personally, for me as a Christian, I just trust that God's in control, even though they sound like a simple answer, but it helps bring me peace to know that,
All right, so I'm just going to ask you just this one last question because we're starting to run out of time, but being in the Air Force, do you think your perspective was changed noticeably due to the militant responses and reactions and so forth?
So what are you asking me?
So being in the Air Force, do you think your perspective was altered just due to the fact that, you're like, you had a military view on things? Do you think that was...
Oh, it's definitely clouded. It clouded my view of the situation, because I was, the Air Force's tip of the spear, right? So we were the ones delivering the punishment.
Yeah.
A lot of it, anyway. So yeah, I definitely had a different perspective being in the military, but I did feel like a sense of obligation too to protect our country. So.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna say that's about it for now. I would thank you for talking.
It's my pleasure. It was a pleasure meeting you.
It's a pleasure meeting you, Dad.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Thanks.
Thanks.